So, to commemorate and celebrate the completion of my MD PhD journey, I wanted to create a piece of art that would serve as a symbol of the ups, downs, and just the growth that I've really experienced these past 7 years, and so that I could share it with mentors in my support system who have just really made this journey possible. I chose to do the art using a technique called Linocut, which is a form of block printing using linoleum, which I'm cutting here using a carving tool. And this is a hobby I picked up during my PhD and during the pandemic when I moved to San Francisco. And I really like it a lot because it doesn't take a lot of tools or space or money, but really encourages creativity and finding beauty in imperfection. You have to think in the negative space and really visualize something that's not there yet. And you won't know exactly what it looks like until the end. So really, just like my MD PhD journey, you have to be flexible and trust in your vision. I based the design on a tree, which has obvious metaphors for growth, change, strength, and support. And all of these are things that have made my experience unique and fulfilling. And particularly, this tree is modeled after one just amazingly gorgeous tree that I saw this past fall in Sevier Park after a professional failure. And it reminded me to see the bigger picture, perspective, and just that even though seasons will change and there will be loss, you can find beauty in that. And I've since biked past this tree many times, and it always encourages me to reflect. Even though there's a lot of freeform creativity in Linocut, it really also requires a lot of precision and technical skill, which reflects that development during my time at Vanderbilt. So you'll see me making a registration frame out of cardboard, which allows the different pieces of linoleum to print exactly as the place I want it. And each of the 3 lino blocks was mounted on another piece of cardboard that fits precisely into this frame. And on the back of each of the prints, I draw these little marks so that I can reposition the paper every time within this frame to achieve consistency. Here I'm doing a first test print, which I think is one of the most exciting parts of the Linocut process, and you finally get to see what the design looks like in full color. It's also somewhat nerve-wracking because this is the point at which you can figure out if the pieces don't fit together or you carved something backwards, since it's printed as a flipped version of what gets carved. Luckily, I was really happy here and it exceeded my expectations. I only made a few tweaks to carve out what I didn't like or things that were showing up that I didn't intend, and now I'm ready for production. So I did this part as somewhat of an assembly line for each of the 13 prints, and I line up the registration marks, I tape it down, and then I get my inks ready by rolling over the inks with a tool called a brayer. And then with the brayer, I roll the ink over the cut linoleum, and this will serve sort of as a stamp. And then I lay down the paper over the linoleum quite carefully, and I rub the back of the paper firmly with a wooden spoon to get the ink to transfer from the linoleum onto the paper. And normally this step is done with a tool called a baren, but sometimes you gotta cheaply improvise. And finally, you peel off the paper to reveal the print. And at each step, I let the ink dry and then repeat with the new lino block. And just like in research and medicine, a lot of the work comes from this repetition and iteration. And sometimes it can be quite monotonous, but you can always find little things to change or new variations to try, which always keeps things interesting. So I tried lots of different colors and gradients, which really give each one its own unique character. Finally, I get to title and label each of the prints, each a unique edition. Paradoxically, this is done in pencil for historical reasons because graphite is actually almost impossible to remove, while ink can be bleached out and forged. And so it's so cool to finally see this together. I hope you enjoyed it, and I finally get to sign it as Yvonne MacArthur, MD PhD.